What can LA Charger fans expect from new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore? Now, Kellen Moore was the OC for the Dallas Cowboys for the past 5 seasons, and after last year, surprisingly, they got rid of him. And I feel like Mike McCarthy got rid of Kellen Moore in the scapegoat kind of fashion. Same way that the Buccaneers fired Byron Leftwich. Kellen Moore, last season, this guy coached Dallas to having the top 10 offense. They were top 10 in damn near every statistical category. So it didn't really make a lot of sense to me why Dallas ended up firing him. And then you got Dallas Cowboy fans trying to put all of Dak Prescott's struggles all on Kellen Moore. Like, you got to quit it, man. If you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, just own up and say that Mike McCarthy made a mistake moving on from Kellen Moore. Now, I think that the Cowboys offense is going to be perfectly fine, but I definitely think Dallas is going to take a step back offensively, and the LA Chargers offense is going to be better with Kellen Moore calling the plays than it was under their previous offensive coordinator in Joe Lombardi, who was able to put up 27 points in the first half against Jacksonville, and then in the second half just went completely blank. And all the knocks that Chargers fans had when it came to Joe Lombardi, his scheme being old school, not really being able to develop complex route combinations, you're not really going to have those same gripes when it comes to Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is probably one of the most innovative offensive minds in the game right now. Many people expect him to end up becoming a head coach, whether that be at the NFL level or going back to the collegiate ranks. But Kellen Moore is one of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL. And now he's going to be having the opportunity to coach up one of the best QBs in the NFL, Justin Herbert, bro. Like, do you know what Kellen Moore's offense is going to do for Justin Herbert, bro? We're going to see all of Justin Herbert's full potential unleashed, man. And it seems like ever since Justin Herbert's days at Oregon, he's just been put in offenses that have held him back. Like Joe Lombardi had a Ferrari, and he was trying to drive that thing like it was a damn Honda Civic, bro. Like, let this man, Justin Herbert, off the leash, man. Let Justin Herbert sling that rock, man. And that's one thing that Kellen Moore is going to let Justin Herbert do, because something that Kellen Moore did a fantastic job at during his time calling plays for Dallas was getting big explosive plays in the passing game. His deep passing concepts are phenomenal. He's also does a really good job at getting the best out of his personnel. Like, I was reading one article earlier before I started this episode of the podcast saying that, well, the wide receivers didn't really create much separation. Like, how can you put that on Kellen Moore? You can't put wide receivers being able to separate on the offensive coordinator. Eventually, you got to have players who can just downright execute. And outside of CeeDee Lamb, Kellen Moore didn't really have any wide receivers who were good at that. Like, Michael Gallup was still trying to get back from that injury that he suffered the year prior. His route running was not that good. As a matter of fact, Michael Gallup took a step back in 2022, man. And then, not just that, but Dak Prescott was a turnover machine. This dude was giving out turnovers like it was Christmas. The only difference is for Dak Prescott, he was giving out those turnovers like it was Christmas Day every single day. He was looking like Santa Claus out there, man. And every time Dallas got into late game situations, Dak Prescott couldn't come through. Not just that, but he also was not making the proper reads. He was at times getting a little bit too conservative with the ball. Like, I believe that Kellen Moore getting fired was a scapegoat move by Mark McCarthy. It didn't really make too much sense, man. It just seemed like the Dallas Cowboys had to put the blame on somebody, so they just went ahead and put the blame on Kellen Moore. This was somebody who was getting head coaching interviews, man. You don't get head coaching interviews if you're not good at what you do. So the LA Chargers got blessed to get an offensive coordinator this talented. He's going to have a fantastic wide receiver core to work with. Keenan Allen, when he's healthy, is one of the best slot receivers in the game. Mike Williams, it seems like this dude damn near catches everything, man. When you think about some of the best catches of last NFL season, Mike Williams accounted for a handful of them. Then you get Quinn Johnston, wide receiver out of TCU in the first round. Like, these dudes have one of the biggest wide receiving cores in the NFL. Like, Quentin Johnston has fantastic size, although he's a little bit weird. When you look at Quentin Johnston, you expect this dude to kind of have a similar play style to Mike Williams, but when you watch him play, he's a wide receiver that kind of plays more like he's a slot receiver at times. He's really good after the catch. He can make guys miss. Sometimes he can struggle getting off the line of scrimmage, but I believe in Kellen Moore's offense, this guy is going to be a big play waiting to happen every time Justin Fields targets him downfield, man. Like, the best place for Quentin Johnston, for me, was him landing with the LA Chargers. He gets blessed with one of the best QBs in the game. He also has a fantastic offensive coordinator. Like, I'm expecting Quentin Johnston to have a fantastic rookie season for the LA Chargers, man. And then Kellen Moore, earlier when I was listening to one of his press conferences and he was asked about Austin Eckler having his contract situation resolved, he was really excited about the opportunity to coach up Austin Eckler, man. This is one of the best all-around running backs in the NFL. And the run game was a big issue for the Chargers last season. They were one of the worst rushing football teams in the NFL last season. That was the main reason why they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, because when they got up big after halftime, they couldn't take time off the clock. They were too one-dimensional on offense. They were too overly reliant on Justin Herbert. Plus, they had a good amount of injuries that kind of held them back. But if you're a Chargers fan, man, expect this offense to be amongst the best in the NFL. And just thinking about it now, I think that the Chargers, with Kellen Moore, if he's as good as an offensive coordinator as many Chargers fans expect him to be, this is definitely a team that could end up going toe-to-toe with Kansas City legitimately for the AFC West this year, man. And that may be a little bit surprising to some. That may be a hot take to some people, but the Chargers do have a really talented football team, not just on the offense, but on the defensive side also. And if Brandon Staley can finally get that defense performing at the level that it should be under him, with him being a defensive-minded coach, you couple that with the fact that they now have a legitimate elite offensive coordinator at the helm, the Chargers probably could be a dark horse Super Bowl contender. And if you're a Chiefs fan, you better watch out, because the Chargers, right now, this team is a little scary. You got wide receivers, you got quarterback, you're going to have a really good offensive line as long as everybody can stay healthy, and now they have a legitimate offensive coordinator now calling the plays, man. I mean, this was somebody who had Dallas backup QB Cooper Rush looking pretty good. With Cooper Rush at the helm at QB last season, when Dak Prescott had missed a couple of games due to injury, they went 4-1 with him as the starter. You don't do that if you have a terrible offensive coordinator. Now, I'm not saying that Cooper Rush was lighting the world on fire under Kellen Moore, but this dude was way better than what I initially expected him to be as the starting quarterback and replace Dak Prescott until he came back fully healthy. And then even then, Dak Prescott had some really good moments and some really good games under Kellen Moore. The problem is that Dak Prescott, just for some reason last season, he just was too careless with the football. And yet, I don't get how that was Kellen Moore's fault, man. Like, Kellen Moore with Justin Herbert, bro, they're going to be cooking up some legitimate dimes downfield, bro. This dude has one of the best passing games, one of the best passing schemes in the NFL when it comes to generating big plays downfield, and that's something that Justin Herbert hasn't really been allowed to do, not just during his time being the starting QB for the LA Chargers, but even back to his college days when he was playing at Oregon. He now has an offensive coordinator that truly understands Justin Herbert's skill set. That never made any sense to me, how Joe Lombardi had a quarterback that had one of the strongest arms in the NFL, but yet he never allowed this guy to let it loose. Plus, his scheme was old school in a lot of Chargers fans' eyes. So now you have an offensive coordinator and Kellen Moore who's going to be running a modern-day offense. This is also somebody that makes pretty good adjustments. That was another thing that Joe Lombardi struggled to do. He struggled to really adapt his offense. He kind of was out of touch. I'm surprised that the Chargers offense performed that the way that it did last season, good enough to make it to the postseason. We probably could give Justin Herbert the majority of the credit for that. But for Kellen Moore, man, he has the perfect opportunity to get a head coaching job with the team that he has in LA. Justin Herbert, one of the best QBs in the game. You have one of the best receiving cores in the game. You're going to have a really good offensive line. The Chargers offense should at least be top 5, no worse than top 8 in the NFL this season. And when this offense starts cooking up dimes downfield, they're going to be a really scary team that if you're opposing defensive coordinator, you're going to have a hard time game planning for Mike Williams, Quentin Johnston, and Keenan Allen. Kellen Moore, this is the perfect opportunity this season for him to prove himself, not just as a legitimate offensive coordinator, but also he probably could catapult himself into being a potential head coaching candidate next season. So let me know how you guys feel about the LA Chargers offense going into this season with new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore.